Welcome back, Hunters. SkySensei here with another Wagasa Blade build. Now this is another raw build that works really well, and I tried out the human modification path for this build since my last one used the kimono modified path, and I like to make a variety of builds. Even if they aren't 100% meta builds, I make sure that they work effectively for all hunts that you will experience. It's also a pretty exciting time for Wild Hearts since we have 2 new monsters on the way. We have some small title updates coming in March, bringing 2 new monster variants alongside some new skills and a subspecies armor. So be sure to subscribe for more builds and skill breakdowns when those release. So for today's build, we're looking at the tongue twister Karura Wagasa Blade. Did I say that right? Probably not. High Raw with the inherent skill Sublime Dance. Now this skill lengthens the amount of time you have before the spin dance gauge begins to deplete. So right away, compared to my previous build, this build lets you keep your Parasol Wagasa out and at the ready. You don't need to store it away at all. This weapon also has the inherent skill Parry Boost Fury, which grants you extra damage when you land a successful parry. Now 15% comes from the inherent skill, and I've also added another 6% from one of the inherited skills along the tree path, specifically from the Amber Bladed Wagasa early in the tree. The next skill that I carried over is the Destruction Art skill. Very helpful for this build, as I'll explain in a bit, but briefly, one of the human modified skills on this armor will grant you extra critical chance when you break parts. So having Destruction Art will help you get that extra critical chances more often and much quicker, getting you more damage on the monster. Next up, we grab the Dodge Master skill from the final boss Blade. This Dodge Master grants 30% increase in the window to parry, making it really comfy to parry most attacks. Now this is extremely important because of the next skill that I inherited, the VERVE Skill, which is what the build is focusing on. The VERVE Skill boosts your attack and defense, but only when you are at max health. So with the increased parry window plus the Sublime Dance active, your goal for this build is really to continuously parry, don't get hit from this, and that grants you the extra damage, enabling you to break parts quicker, to grant you more critical, and of course from there, get more damage. So I'll touch a little bit more on this playstyle in just a little bit. The final skill that I inherited is the Sleight of Hand Fury skill that comes with the Karura Blade. Now this boosts your attack for a brief moment after conjuring a Karakuri, so it's great for Karakuris that bind monsters or slow them down enough for you to deal some damage. My recommendation is to use this like the Tether Karakuri or the Harpoon Trap when your spin gauge is full, so that you can deal this extra bonus damage on top of a maxed out spin gauge damage. So that's it for the weapon build itself. Since I decided to try out the skill VERVE, we had to go with the human modification path. Now if you modify this build and prefer the kimono modified path, be sure to take a look at my previous video which has a recommended kimono build for the Wagasa Blade. In terms of damage, I believe the kimono modified skills have a little bit more risk associated with them, but there are also more skills that grant you damage, so it's a little bit more versatile. The human modified path is generally better for ally and team hunting aside from VERVE, so we decided to try this skill out in this build since I usually hunt solo. So first up, the helmet that was used was the final boss helmet, the Draconic Headwear. This has the skill One Stroke Critical Skill, which grants you 30% extra crit chance for a while after breaking a part. Now most times when you break a monster part, they stumble for a little bit before recovering. The Wagasa Blade is very good at taking advantage of this moment, since if you have a full spin dance gauge, you can go straight into the multi-hits by throwing your Parasol out. Since it's a quick multi-attack, you can definitely get some crits in after breaking parts with that 30% boost, and you might even break another part which then continues the cycle again. You can also modify this helmet as well to the human modification path to gain that extra defense from the helmet. I will note that this isn't needed to reach a pure human path, so if you don't want to fight the final boss too many times, don't upgrade this. My opinion for this helmet is that you really only need to upgrade it if you're fighting the volatile monsters. Those guys hit quite hard, and every little bit of defense will help you survive. Moving on, we have the Fuma Clan Chest Armor. Now this is another armor that doesn't need to be human modified, but you can for the extra defense. This armor grants us another VERVE skill on top of the weapon, bringing us to an overall 13%. This armor also has the War Ready, which is a skill that increases stamina recovery when the weapon is drawn. So again, another reason for why you should never really be storing this weapon away with this build. The ideal situation again is to continuously parry, don't take damage, inflict higher damage on the monsters with VERVE and parry boost, and then recover stamina quickly while your weapon is drawn in order to parry the next attack. Next up, we have the Dawn Guard Gauntlets, which are specifically human modified. Now the skills associated with this glove are the Celestial Breath, which recovers Karakuri Thread automatically over time. Additionally, you also regain health from the Karakuri Coordination Remedy skill, which when you combine an attack with a Karakuri like a box to jump off of, or like the gliders to attack from the sky, or a spring to boost you back into the fight, you will heal a little bit over time. This doesn't heal a lot, it's very tiny, it's like less than 5 seconds. So you really only use this when you have like a sliver of health that was missing. Like if you drink a healing water and there's like a little bit left, you can pop up a spring to get yourself back into the action and then heal that little bit as you get back into your attacks. The base version of this is pretty small, like it gives like almost nothing. So if you are going to use this skill or you find yourself using this skill a lot, I would also recommend adding a talisman that boosts this skill just a little bit. Next up, we have the Fuma Clan Pants. Now I primarily picked this for the Time Changer human modified skill. This is a really neat skill that extends the duration of temporary buffs. It only adds an extra few seconds, but the skills that it affects does make it worth it, including the Parry Boost Fury for extra damage, the One Stroke Critical for extra critical on a part break, and the Sleight of Hand Fury for more damage when you use a Karakuri. So it's a neat skill to get that extra damage on those small chances and windows that you have to damage with the Wagasa Blade. Finally, for the legs, we have the human modified White Fang Boots. These boots have the skill Savage, which just grants more attack, and another Verve skill, bringing us to a total of 16% boosted attack and defense when at max health. So that's it for the armor. As you can see, the armor also looks really good altogether and really nice. It's not a jumbled mix of colors, so that made me happy automatically. In terms of talismans, as I've mentioned before, these don't make or break your builds, so I recommend you put on what you really need, whatever fits your playstyle. For any Wagasa Blade build, I recommend the Parasol Dance Fury skill, which boosts your attack when you level up the spin gauge. Now this is also another skill that gets extended with the Time Changer skill. So if you can add another talisman like I do here that adds Time Changer, you can stack this with the Time Changer skill from the armor to further increase the time that your temporary buffs are active, granting you more time to damage the kimono. Finally, this build does rely on breaking parts to grant that critical damage, and you have a very short window to get a huge amount of damage with that. So adding a Destruction Art Talisman will again just add on, accumulate, and make it easier to break parts to do more damage and open up those weak spots. Besides these, the last talismans are quite up to you guys honestly. If you have critical chance talismans or crit boosting talismans, those would be really helpful for those moments when you break parts. As I mentioned before, if you use the Karakuri Remedy strat quite often, any talisman with the Karakuri Coordination Remedy skill to just give it that little extra boost will make it totally worth it, and make sure that you maintain that Verve skill in order to maintain your high boosted damage. And that just about wraps it up for the Verve Skill Wagasa build. It's a very neat skill, and quite honestly, it's one of the best weapons for this skill. Aside from just dodging, you also have parrying, both of which combined makes it very difficult for the monster to hit you, ensuring that you have more damage for when you actually hit the monster. So I've really been enjoying it. Let me know what you guys think about it. Hope you guys try it out. If you guys have any recommendations or changes or questions, please leave a comment below so that everybody can see it. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting the video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care, stay safe, and keep hunting. Sky Sensei is out.